So here it is. Both Peter and Jude connect two events, and they say they are similar, likewise, where the sexual perversion happened that led to judgment. Does that make sense? And what was a similar thing? There's angelic beings and human beings trying to come together here. This is one of the passages that I think a lot of times people as Christians like to skip because it just sounds a little kooky and crazy. So in Genesis chapter 6, we see that there are these beings called sons of God who sees women on earth, get attracted to them, and have sex with them. That's in the Bible? Yeah, kind of crazy, right? It is. So let's understand what is going on here. When man began to multiply on the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attracted. They chose and took them as their wives. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. So he limits the life of mankind because of this event, some event that was happening. And then it talks about the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men and they were born children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Now, what in the world is going on? Let's start by identifying first. Who are the sons of God? There's different theories of this. Now, this is a highly debated passage, so what I'm telling you is going to be my understanding of it. You might find other ones. Okay, but here's the options of sons of God. Some people think it's referring to sons of Seth. So, Seth was the godly son, not Cain or Abel. And from Seth, he had descendants. And those were the sons of God, the godly line, who saw the women, and then they corrupted themselves, right? That's kind of the idea. So these are just humans coming from the lineage of Seth. That's one theory. The second theory is that they are angelic beings. Because, why? Every other time you see sons of God in Scripture, it refers to angels. It never refers to a human throughout all of the Old Testament. So anyone that holds to this first one, you have a lot of burden of proof. Because this is the one time all of a sudden it refers to a human. When every other time, remember I read Job, it talks about sons of God, right? Sons of God refers to angelic beings, right? That's the second theory. Now, third theory, this goes back to the correlation and causation thing. If you look at ancient Near Eastern culture, there was a person named Gilgamesh. You guys know who Gilgamesh is? There's Gilgamesh, and there's all these half God, half human beings, ancient Near Eastern culture. So these are like half divine, half human. So the theory is that these are the heroes or the men of renown that is being referred to are these half God, half divine, half human beings, and that's what the sons of God are referring to. So, in other words, this passage is commenting on the ancient Near Eastern accepted beliefs that there are these crazy, partially divine humans. Okay, so that's the three different sons of God. So the sons of God comes up 5 times in the Bible. Here in Genesis, Job chapter 1, Job chapter 2, Job chapter 38, and Daniel chapter 3. Every single reference, it refers not to the Gilgamesh, half human, half gods, not to humans. It always refers to angelic beings. So if we start there, which I think is the right way, if you just look at how the rest of the Bible talks about sons of God, then what in the world is going on in Genesis 6 then? Well, let's look back at 2 Peter chapter 2, because Peter is actually commenting on Genesis 6 in 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 1 through 10. 2 Peter, he talks about false teachers. He says there are days coming for Christians where there's going to be false teachers, and if God could, and he's saying but trust in God, because if God could deliver his people from the difficult times in Genesis, that he will continue to do so in the future times with the false teachers. So Peter is looking at these events in Genesis to say, if God is able to get his people through these events, he can get him through any event in the future, even false teachers. All right, so look at 2 Peter chapter 2 if you want to see the context. So if you look at 2 Peter chapter 2, there's 2 events that Peter talks about. Starting in verse 1, he talks about the false prophets that are rising up. They're leading people astray. And then verse 4 is what we read earlier. If God did not spare the angels when they sinned, right? So Peter, 2 Peter chapter 2, the first event is what? The falling of angels. We don't know which one he's talking about, but he's referring to one of those fallen angels events, where angels came down, they did something wrong, and they stay in judgment, right? We just read that. That's the first event. The second event, if you notice, is what? Right after that, he talked about Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, and soon we're going to see what the connection is between the two for Peter. So what was the first one? He's referring to what is the story before Sodom and Gomorrah, where there's fallen angels, seems to indicate this story we just read in Genesis 6. There are some sons of God or angels who saw women, they wanted to sleep with them, they went down and boom, something happened. They married them and then eventually that led to the flood. The second event is what is similar in that story. There was angels who came in and the men wanted to sleep with them. And because of that, it led to what? Judgment. So both stories are talking about the angelic realm and human realm trying to get together sexually that led to some disastrous judgment. Do you see that pattern? Peter's referring to both. So if God did not spare the angels, this is the judgment aspect that Peter's talking about. But here, Sodom and Gomorrah is the reverse. He didn't judge, he actually spared and saved. This is the salvation aspect of two events that are very similar. Human, angelic, trying to come together. In one instance, he judged the angels. Second instance, he saved the humans, at least a few of the humans, Lot and his family. So why is he talking about that? What he's saying is these two events were very deep in the minds of Jewish readers at that time, as understanding the nature of God in terms of judgment and salvation and how God, through these two events where the angelic and the human realm came together, he intervened. Now Jude, if you look back at Jude 6-7, notice a pattern with Jude and Peter. Because what did Peter talk about? Fallen angels and then Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's look at Jude. Jude 6-7. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority but left the proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. And then what does he talk about right after? Just as Sodom and Gomorrah. Why? Because they're both Jewish writers. These are the two events in their minds. That's what you got to know. It can never be for us what it never meant for them. You got to understand what it meant for them. So what is it? Just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding cities, which likewise, do you notice likewise to the fallen angels story, likewise Sodom and Gomorrah did what? Indulge in sexual immorality and pursue unnatural desires, serving as an example of undergoing punishment of eternal fire. So here it is. Both Peter and Jude connect two events, and they say they are similar, likewise, where the sexual perversion happened that led to judgment. Does that make sense? And what was a similar thing? There was angelic beings and human beings trying to come together here. So, going back to the first question, who are the sons of God? It's going to be angelic beings. Because that connection with Sodom and Gomorrah wouldn't make sense otherwise. Because they weren't trying to rape other men. Who are they trying to rape? Angels. Okay, now let's continue. So Jude and Peter are saying similar things in that if God can deliver his people from sexual perversion, then he could deliver them from false teachers. Because Jude is commenting on false teachers, Peter's commenting on false teachers, and the Christians are worried like, oh my gosh, these false teachers, so many people are falling astray, the whole Christian movement is going to die. And they're both saying, do you not remember what happened in Genesis? If he can deliver us through these angel trying to pregnate women and these men trying to pregnate angels, he can get you through false teachers. Relax.